Yeah, I don't believe that, Charmaine. She's a crackhead if she does. I don't even believe that. I don't even believe that, Charmaine. She's in my chat saying that she actually believes you're probably just putting that to wind me up. I don't even want to listen to that. It pissed me right off. Listen, this Allie is one crackhead. Oh, listen, the parents are not suspicious whatsoever in all of this. Holy Hannah. They grow them thick in Nova Scotia. Yeah, of course, Jonah Burnham. He can't say suspect because it's not a criminal case yet. The reason that this whole conversation is a complete waste of effing time. Anybody else? Do you know what I mean? But we have to talk about it because it's right here. You've presented it to us. What would you expect them? Every time you come to see Rob McCammon, he tells you the same thing. He's not going to tell you anything. But when it happens, he'll certainly update you, just like he's updated us now to your little pleasure boy, Daniel Martell, about to become Canada-wide Halifax to Victoria alert to Peely Island. An SX offender. A violent SX offender.
And we continue to gather information and whatever evidence that we are able to.
He just told you right there, we're still in the evidence collecting stage of all of this. And by the way, you can run a completely secondary investigation alongside and not even tell you about it. That's always possible. It doesn't mean everything has to be lumped under what happened to Jack and Lily. But after this little kerfuffle is through the courts, an old fun boy becomes the newest member of that registry. They're going to be forced to look at this situation with a clear understanding of what the hell is up. The fact that there's a SX offender living in the household would suggest to an investigator that it's suspicious and worth pursuing a little bit further, just exactly how far this coercive behavior went. Let's hear some more stories and then some more. It seems like Malaya is opening up in that sense. She's opened up enough. She's opened up enough to press charges against Daniel with what it is that she came forward with, and none of that is going to be in detail in any of the paperwork that we have. What else is she going to open up about? What's next, I wonder? So because you can see it in how they represented Malaya recently in the newspaper, that they're protecting her like the victim that she probably is in this circumstance, even though that we're plenty upset and want her to be accountable for whatever happened to Jack and Lily. The information and the important information is coming out. We have to get to know it. So hold your opinions perhaps if you have to. They want her to feel as comfortable as possible in sharing that information, and they're protecting her from the media itself. And that flow of information is exactly where they want it to be to begin with, since day one. That's why Cindy was protecting Malaya, perhaps, in that sense. So I have to walk back my upsettedness yesterday. I was upset before they announced this latest arrest at Cindy, and I'm not so upset at her. I was thinking to myself today, because then I understood a little bit maybe what she was protecting in order to help paint a better picture as what's going on, and what better way to progress the situation than Daniel to have and be convicted in this process to help paint a better picture of the circumstances inside that house. Well, you know it's got to be bad if Janie was ignoring it. She can't ignore anything. 444 Jack Q, what's up? Malaya's going to tell everything she can. Marie Antoinette, I believe she probably is. They'll go at whatever pace they need to. I wonder what's going to happen with Danny. Actually, one moment, please, because I do know what exactly is. I think I know what's going to happen with him. So what is life like for a person who's found guilty of SA, straight assault, and forcible confinement in Nova Scotia? As in prison. Life in prison for somebody convicted of these 3 charges depends on the sentence length and the court's classification of the offenses. Sentences under 2 years, common for many, such as convictions, especially if no prior record or aggravating factors, are extreme. Yeah, it's fairly extreme aggravating factors from my judgment at this point. They are served in provincial correctional facilities managed by Nova Scotia Correctional Services. Key facilities include the Central Nova Scotia Correctional Facility is Burnside near Halifax. It's the largest and busiest, medium security, housing both men and the ladies. There's Cape Breton Correctional Facility in Sydney, the other end of the island. Well, it's on another island, technically. Northeast Nova Scotia Correctional Facility in Dartmouth, in the area for some classifications. Others like Southwestern Nova Scotia Correctional Facility or Waterville, though Waterville is more associated with youth historically. So sentences 2 years or more go to federal penitentiaries under Correctional Services Canada, CSC, such as Spring Hill Institution, which is a medium security in Nova Scotia, or others in the Atlantic region, such as Dorchester and New Brunswick. Federal time often involves more structured programming, but can include transfers. Probably wants to go to the women's prison. He's going to transition in prison, I bet. Hey, Tina Kachina. So specific challenges, Danny, for convictions involving sexual offenses. People convicted of SA, especially involving adults or even children, are labeled as SX offenders, SOs in correctional culture. Research and reports on Canadian prisons consistently show stigma and prisoner hierarchy. SOs are widely regarded as being at the bottom of the informal prison social hierarchy. Other inmates often view them with contempt, leading to the following: verbal harassment, threats, and ostracism. Higher risk of physical assault, extortion, or targeted violence from other prisoners. In some cases, the need for protective custody, PC, or segregation to avoid harm, which can mean isolation, limited yard time, fewer programs, and mental health strain. Don't worry about Danny, he's fine. Studies, including Canadian ones, on correctional officers and inmates confirm SOs remain heavily stigmatized. Huge douchebags, with repercussions for safety, program access, and reintegration. They may require escorts, not that kind, or special arrangements to attend programming safely. Programming may include SX offender treatment, if available, kick in the nuts, more structured in federal systems, but participation can be stigmatizing and sometimes require protection during sessions. You can't get out of this one. In mixed general population settings, many SOs keep a low profile, Daniel. Avoid discussing their charges. Well, that's going to be difficult for you. Or request transfers or protection early. Now, other factors influencing daily life, such as daily routine, looks something like structured around counts, meals, lockdowns, limited recreation, work assignments, like cleaning or the kitchen, which is not going to be where you are, and potential visits or maybe even a phone call. The mental health, high stress from stigma. Well, you can't take any stress leave in prison, pal. The fear of violence, family separation, and guilt or shame can exacerbate issues. Kind of like your math habit exacerbated all of your issues at home. Access to counseling varies. That's why you got a cellmate, probably. Not you, though. And is often limited in provincial jails. Now, post-release, which is something that you're not going to have to worry about ever, long-term S-offender registry requirements, reporting restrictions apply in Nova Scotia, Canada, affecting housing, employment, and community life. Prison life is harsh overall in Canadian systems, but convictions like these add layers and danger and isolation due to inmate dynamics. Conditions can vary by facility, security level, behavior, whether or not your name's Daniel Martell, and population changes. Reports emphasize that provincial jails often have less oversight and worse conditions than federal ones for many inmates.
To find, and we'll make our decisions based on that. But we are not in a position to really comment on suspects right now.
Yeah, he's not really in a position to comment on suspects, Amy. And you're specifically saying that the RCMP are saying that Daniel, Janie, and nobody else are suspects? What do you think? We're stupid? Get the hell out of here.
The mysterious nature of their disappearance.
You're lucky you're doing such a good job. I might be upset. Let's go to global. Not that it's any better. No, we'll do this one better. Let's go read a story. Remember the one back in the Globe and Mail a while ago? I think it's still down here. It's a long one. This one. Deep in the middle of Nova Scotia, far from its quaint coastal towns, since Lansdowne, a hamlet of around 100 people in a cellular dead zone. Questionable. Obviously don't have Starlink. It's surrounded by endless spruce forests, bushes like razor wire, and bugs that breed swarms of black flies. Bogs. B-O-G-S. Whoops. The hell are you doing there? Like many faded settlements across the Maritimes, Lansdowne reached its peak more than a century ago. About 150 kilometers northeast of Halifax, it was once a busy railway stop, bustling with Scottish immigrants who dug iron and copper mines deep into the hillsides. Today, those mine shafts are abandoned. One lone train a day cuts through the community with a melancholic blare. Most of the people here live in a quiet rural existence in secluded homes, except Kent, scattered along the backcountry roads that only the locals know, like Darren-Geddes, where chickens and large dogs roam free. Interesting. And the rusted skeletons of old vehicles sit marooned in the dirt. Much like American Appalachia, this once prosperous corner of Pictou County, I wouldn't go that far, is now economically stagnant. Earl's lost his job at the tire plant. 1 in 5 children live in poverty, higher than most other counties in the province. It's here where the lives of Lily and Jack Sullivan, right? The things that bother him the most. These are the things that drove you crazy, that you used against her before you took the kids' lives, Mr. Hands-On. It just breaks my heart not to ever see anybody. Well, you're going to be crying that a lot when you're sitting in a prison cell. Can you believe that came out of his mouth, this guy? That's a mouthful right there. I've been the only one there for them. She can't control them, only I can. They act out whenever she's there. She always gets me to calm them down, or get them to stop fighting, or feed them, or get them up, and put them to bed. Every night. She was asking me to do everything. See, leakage all through there, isn't it? Now you're really telling us about the things that were going on behind the scenes and exactly how you felt. It just breaks my heart not to ever see everybody. Somehow I don't believe that. The day before the children were reported missing, the Mounties say the children were observed in public with family members. It was the last time they were seen by anyone outside the home. Daniel has said in an interview that the evening before the kids disappeared, everyone was home. He said he spent the evening working on the fence in the backyard. It was a night just like any other for the young children, he added, though he couldn't remember what time they went to bed. Oh, it was just a night just like any other for the kids. Yes, thank you for asking. There is, however, at least one account of strange activity in the mobile home that night. There is, however, at least one account of strange activity at the mobile home that night. RCMP spokesperson Corporal Carly McCann confirmed that police received a tip on May 8th from somebody who described hearing a vehicle come and go from the mobile home throughout the night before the children were reported missing. Yeah, like 4 times in 3 hours, 4 times in 5 hours, between the hours of midnight and 4 a.m. approximately. That's Bradley Wong and Justin Smith. Eyewitnesses corroborating stories. Investigators are continuing to review and assess more than 600 tips from the public and follow up on over 800 tasks, she wrote in an email. A neighbor who spoke to the Globe said they reported this information on May 8th. The neighbor said they were working on a vehicle in their own yard when they heard the same loud 5-speed car come and go from the trailer about 6 times, from midnight to 5 a.m. after the children's disappearance. The neighbor considered it important information and reported it to police right away. That's working on this claim's behalf as credible in that sense. The Globe agreed not to name the neighbor because concerns for their safety in the community. He came out. For the next 5 days, search and rescue teams poured over the area. On the 6th day of the children's disappearance, police announced they were scaling back. It was unlikely, they said, that the children were still alive. Important to prove that point in court, too, when you're going for a prosecution. In the following week, searchers returned twice more. They zeroed in around the home and the natural gas pipeline. A clear-cut trail of land that runs through the countryside, where a possible child-sized boot print was found. Lily's blanket was also nearby. Police divers scoured lakes. They drained the septic tank, this of the mobile home, and inspected 4 abandoned mine shafts in Lansdowne, a search that's eerily familiar for locals. Way back in 2002, amateur mineral explorers discovered the remains of a man who had disappeared 19 years earlier in one of these old copper mines. This is a 39-year-old Alex Penny's car was found abandoned on a dirt road in Lansdowne months after his mysterious disappearance. It's a chilling homicide that never ever has been solved, one that rattles around in the collective memories of the people who live here. Well, don't worry about that, because this one is going to be solved. Police have said they plan to search more of these old mine shafts for the children. A provincial database shows 5 within several kilometers of the mobile home. Dozens more pepper the backwoods and rural highways of Pictou County. Police have said they plan to search more of these old mine shafts. We read that. Police have described the case as highly unusual, not just because of how ugly Daniel is, or Janie. It has nothing to do with their looks. Most missing persons cases are resolved shortly after they're reported to police, but the disappearance of Jack and Lily have become a complex and intensive major crime investigation involving a tremendous amount of careful, deliberate investigative work, said RCMP Staff Sergeant Rob McCammon. You know, Amy, the one that you misinterpreted just not too long ago. In an update last month, the Nova Scotia government offered a $150,000 reward for this information. So far, the Mounties say they're drawn... You okay? Do you have it, Chair? Where's your tablet? So far, the Mounties say they've drawn on units from other provinces, interrogated dozens of people, sought 10 judicial authorizations to seize records and search warrants, administered polygraph tests, bought Daniel McDonald's 4 times, took possession of electronic devices, viewed thousands of video files, and are awaiting forensic tests on items found during the search, including Lily's pink blanket. And all kinds of things from Janie's RV. Daniel initially told police that the Globe and Mail on May 5th that the pink blanket found in the woods did not belong to Lily. But he later changed his story in subsequent interview he gave. Note the key words in that statement is he changed his story. Later, he changed his story. Oh, Helicopter Grandma, thank you very much, darling. Thank you for the super sticker. Mwah. In a subsequent interview, he suggested the blanket was planted, taken from his week-old garbage. He also claimed that 2 of his sweaters mysteriously disappeared from his home after the kids went missing. He declined to elaborate any further. Well, isn't that interesting? I don't want to give too much away. You know where to look when the parent in the situation starts telling you that he can't talk about it, that they can't talk about whatever it is that has to do with your missing children at that time. We got a problem. Right away. There's no getting past that. There's absolutely no reason in the moment you need to be withholding any sort of evidence. You shouldn't even be recognizing what evidence is, Mr. Victim. Behind the scenes, people's concern for the children's welfare have already raised red flags, not to mention all the statement analysts and all the behavioral analysts like Mike DeMann and Ninchi. Isn't that right, Darren? A child protection supervisor in a nearby town of New Glasgow rushed to prepare a memo for Deputy Minister Craig Beaton about Jack and Lily on the day of the children's disappearance. This according to redacted briefing notes obtained by the Globe through Freedom of Information legislation. 2 weeks later, where were we going here? 2 weeks later, in mid-May, another memo about the children was prepared for senior staff in the province's Child Welfare Department. Opportunities and Social Development Minister Scott Armstrong, who also told the Globe he asked for more information about his department's interaction with the children. Like, did you guys recognize the signs? Has so far been declined to discuss how government responded to concerns about Jack and Lily's well-being prior to this appearance, specifically talking about the situation from the school's concerns. There needs to be further questioning on that. They did everything right. They couldn't have done anything more in that sense. They did everything that they were supposed to. How come we couldn't protect those two? Where did things go awry? Probably a lot of denial from just the nature of a substance abuser in the moment. Like, what did it actually take? But questions we can figure out later. What is known about Jack and Lily's interaction with child welfare authorities is that a social worker came to the trailer over concerns raised by the school several months before their disappearance to access their home life. Teachers and other professionals who work with the children have a legal duty to report if they have reasonable grounds to suspect a child has, may have, is, or is about to suffer abuse. And home visits occur when there's reason to be concerned about a child's safety and care. Daniel, however, told the Globe the visit was related to the kids' learning difficulties at school. Learning difficulties? They're 4 and 6. You don't worry about that till much further down the road. He's already denying and providing you with the things that he wants you to think rather than what really is. Listen, you don't start talking about and putting labels on your kids until you have a diagnosis of anything. Until then, everything's fine. He said the children were suspected of having autism and were scheduled to see a doctor the same month. They vanished. He declined to answer further questions about the involvement of child protection staff in the kids' lives. From the outside, there were signs that the children's home life was strained. They were developmentally behind other children and arrived at school grubby and without appropriate winter clothing, prompting staff to provide it for them. This according to a school board employee with direct knowledge. The Globe is not identifying the source because they're not authorized to disclose details about students. Such an interesting, brave thing to publish. Thank you for that leak of information, by the way, at this point in time looking back. Because you can go and quote the Globe talking about their source at the school if you're so concerned about the credibility of that. Last December, Jack came to school with a black eye, according to a photo of him posted by his elementary school. That would be also